So today we're going to talk about cloud workflow and print automation. And I really appreciate you taking the time to join us and listen in on this event. So as already introduced, my name is Eric Wold, and I am responsible for the product and strategy behind PressWise. I am a former commercial printer, so I have a deep passion for the manufacturing process that print is, and really enjoyed meeting with clients and taking their needs and translating that into products that were going to help them market. And as a printer, back in 2003, I was really challenged with some of the volumes that we were ramping up to deal with, and the speed with which we were expected to turn stuff around. We're going to touch on some of those things today, but that really was the foundation of kind of where this system came from. It was me running an Indigo-based digital print operation, and the opportunities that we had and how we met those opportunities by developing a workflow system. So who's Datatech SmartSoft? Well, we are the leading provider of workflow management software for the mailing and printing categories. We're unique in the industry in that we are a serious vendor in both of those categories. We know them well. We've looked for lots of opportunities to make them work together. You should have seen some of our products out in the market, like AccuMail Frameworks, Smart Addresser, AccuMail Verify, and of course PressWise that we're going to talk about today. But our position in the industry, understanding both sides of these workflows, print and mail, has really impacted what we've been able to do as a vendor and how we've been able to bring these different solutions together, as opposed to just using a third-party toolkit for this and that. So what we want to discuss today is to transform the way that we're doing business by automating the print process from order to delivery, and why you should use APIs to integrate different shop floor processes and tools across the cloud, and how implementing a SaaS product will improve your productivity without breaking the bank. So those are some clear objectives, and we hope that you get some good information out of this call. Now, everybody in the industry is familiar with the pain points that are going on, and it's important to understand what these are, because when you're out there looking for tools, they've got to address something that you're trying to correct. Jobs are getting smaller, faster turnaround times, and these really challenge existing business processes, workflows that you've already had in place for years, profit margins that you are used to. You find when you're dealing with smaller jobs in the same old workflow that the margins just aren't there. The ratio of overhead to value in the project just doesn't work. So that's a pressure that causes us to look for change in our workflow. Customers, they know what's going on in the cloud. They're putting pressure on organizations because they want 24/7 access to just about everything, from submitting orders to you to getting status updates in their systems real time. They want to interact more and more with you online, not have to come in and always place orders like they may have in the past or met with salespeople one-on-one. Some of that's still there, but they can't do all their business that way. Increased competition. It's another external force that's impacting your business, is what's going on with all the other printers. How far ahead of you might they be in already adopting and leveraging these tools in their business? Now internally, while all this is going on, print workflow is complex. Getting a bunch of different systems to behave and cooperate, getting them all synchronized and the proper fields transferring back and forth. You're dealing with multiple tools. Over the past few years, as web-to-print's really taken off, a lot of shops have acquired multiple products, and someone is responsible for figuring out how to make all that work together. Reacting to all these changes has led to increased costs and put additional stress upon the shop's infrastructure. And that's not just on the tools that you have, but on the core team that you expect to manage projects and put things in place. In view of all these things, we feel that a holistic shop-wide view of the entire print workflow is necessary to address today's challenges. And when we talk about end-to-end workflow, we're talking about addressing not just files going to the press in an automated way, but how that entire transaction, the whole life cycle of those revenue opportunities is managed coming into the business and all the way through. Now, if you push through automation and you get it in place, how's it going to benefit you? Well, you're going to have fewer touch points. That means better use of your resources. Your talented people are not so busy managing the basics, on a repetitive jobs. They're not touching so many things that don't have to be. So they can concentrate their skill on the jobs that need it. Increased throughput. You're going to maximize use of that equipment if you can keep jobs flowing in a much more automated way. Greater transparency. Everybody see what's going on. Human error. If your orders are processed in an automated way, then that product, for that key client, you can be sure is always going to hit the shop floor with the right specs, with the right, finishing tasks in a consistent, efficient way. Improved responsiveness. When your customers, from whoever they are interacting with your business, the speed with which you can respond to them can greatly improve with automation. Greater variety of jobs. A properly automated workflow is going to help you not just run a bunch of business cards, with gaming. It's not about that. It's really about how do I take a job shop with custom jobs and enable those to be more automated. We're going to look at that. Now, adaptability and scalability is critical. When you automate, what it does is give you tools and help you get the business running in a more efficient way. That's going to help you adapt and react to change. That means new customers. They bring you another API. Well, can you connect this? And each new project becomes easier and easier for you to manage. There's in kind of a bolt-on fashion. All the existing applications that may be different silo-based tools, ultimately, one way or another, need to get into a cohesive, centralized system so things can flow. And that is all going to translate into greater profitability. And that's why you're on this call, is to see how can we possibly help address your profitability goals. So the PressWise digital workflow that we're going to lay out for you runs in a couple phases. At the very front end, you have orders that typically come into the business through 4 different channels. And you probably experienced some of these already. First one is just the usual quote cycle of business. That's everything from salespeople, writing up quotes to CSRs keying in jobs that came, via email. There's a PressWise storefront that's going to be part of the workflow, and there's also very well supported third-party storefront plugins. Most of the storefronts on the market, as we're going to touch on, are embraced of this. And there's finally API tools. But all 4 of those channels pull jobs in. They go through an auto-validation process that is common. It looks at those jobs and it makes sure that the required specifications and elements are present. You could sort of think of that as an automated pre-press or job flight checking activity. And from that point, it's going to push jobs forward into 2 different workflows. One is an auto workflow that's going to go potentially directly to press. And the other is custom workflow that's going to integrate a pre-press and revision cycle. So there's a number of details that are all kind of summarized into that, which we're going to dive into that and show you many of the sub-steps involved in the workflow. After that, they go into a job queue where you have all the work waiting. It doesn't matter if it's an in-house custom project that you're only going to do once, or it's 1,000 orders that are coming off some automated utility with high volume. In either case, the jobs accumulate, and workers have a chance to release those to press in a couple of different ways that we are going to touch on. And then finally, jobs move forward through finishing and packaging type stages and off into fulfillment, where things could be going into inventory, out via bulk mail, local pickup and delivery, or various shipping vendors. And notifications and data flowing then to accounting and back to customers or to those third-party systems wherever the jobs came from. So that very first phase, order capture. When we say that we're going to streamline order entry, what we mean is that we want to help the shop get the job into the workflow, regardless of which kind of order it is. So I touched on those 4 different places that jobs come from. There's the whole custom quoting revenue cycle that still comprises the majority of revenue for printing companies today. There are storefronts where you may be capturing jobs, and then there can be specialized other kinds of systems. It could be a private storefront that somebody already created. It could be some type of enterprise procurement system that your client has. It could be a CRM where someone has done kind of an automation of their marketing process. So these different kinds of systems can all spawn print orders. And using the PressWise API kit can inject those jobs directly into the system. So wherever they come from, we want to help you manage them in a standard way. And they're going to flow through the workflow and proceed toward production, going through a variety of quality control checks to make sure that files come in, that the specs are all there, and that your standards are reflected in that job before it goes and hits production. As we dive into the middle section here, you're going to see that there are actually a lot more steps, but this summarizes it for you. So there's a validator that then is going to push a job into the auto workflow or the custom. It really has to do with the nature of the job and whether it is eligible for one workflow or the other. Now, the red line here is calling out the top portion of the screen, and that is the custom workflow that I was talking about. And this is kind of the exploded view where you're seeing all the little steps involved. And this is like an engine that is pushing jobs around. I mentioned that there's a pre-press cycle built in there, and that's central to that. And these are task queues. So when workers look at these jobs coming in, flowing from stage to stage, they can drill into those screens and see a list of jobs and the actions that need to be taken. There are tools there to help them manage the assets, push out revisions, and get proofing taken care of, get online approvals from clients, sort of manage that whole cycle. So this is not just about web to print orders, though those are an important component of the workflow. And this custom job cycle is always there anytime a job requires it. So you take any job and move it back and forth between the custom and the automated workflow. You dive into a job, you're going to see all the tools you need to manage it. You can preview and positioning, make changes to the job, the specifications, plan shipments, whether there's multiple shipments with a whole list of addresses, all the tools that agents need to fully manage that project, regardless of where it came from. Now, the other workflow is the auto. And when a job comes in and it's found to meet the right requirements, it will be accepted into auto workflow. And in each of these stages that move forward, you have the potential to manage by exception. So if the artwork gets pulled and there's something wrong with it or files are missing, you're going to see a job drop down, and this box would turn red like you see in the ready exception here. So any of these stages can do various checks, pull in assets, and process data. The second stage is actually data processing, and that has to do with mailing automation. Because we are a mailing vendor and that is built in, we're going to take jobs with mailing data and fully cast DPV, NCOA, and pre-sort them before pushing them further downstream into the automated workflow. And this process can aggregate many different mailings. So if you have small mailings that would be compatible to batch, you don't have to manage that in some privately programmed offline system that you're going to have to maintain forever. That is supported and built into PressWise. Next, jobs go through a payment validation, looks at the terms. If you are using credit card processing built in, then that can be executed here. And then finally, some additional checks, and the job goes off to production. So there's over 30 different control points here that are checking for various aspects of the job. Things that people might miss if workers were trying to manage or push along substantial volume. This kind of is what we call a state engine. Jobs move forward from state to state based on criteria. And we have customers that use this quite successfully to manage significant volumes, all the way from people starting out with just a few orders a day up to literally over 5,000 orders a day fulfilled in the busy season. After that, jobs go into production. I mentioned the job queue where all the work accumulates, and you have opportunities to view that work and decide how you're going to release it. Jobs can be manually selected and impositioned and released to digital, offset, or wide format presses. Or they can be auto-batched. If you have significant volumes of a certain product, then the system can be given permission to watch those jobs, and whenever there is sufficient volume to fill up a sheet, for instance, it can automatically batch them and release them to a RIP. When you're in that production dashboard, you have the tools that you need to drill down on the waiting jobs. So this screen here has a bunch of links, but let me explain what's going on. At the top of the screen, you have links helping you understand where all of your open jobs are. That means everything you haven't fulfilled or got out the door yet. And you can see how those break down by the day that the jobs are due, by the product type, and you totally control this, you create your own categories, and by the current status. So as you produce work, you're going to see it move forward. It's going to be batched and queued on press, then it's going to be printed, and can also then move forward through various stages that kind of depend on your workflow a bit, but cutting, finishing, boxing, and shipping would be the typical workflows. Now the middle area here, these are the ready jobs. This is giving you additional detail on the jobs that have not been impositioned or released to press yet. So if a worker clicks on these links, they're going to get a list of the individual jobs. In this example, we have some substrate codes that you can name any way you want, but our arrow here is pointing to a line that says 104. There's the name of the stock, and there's a number of jobs waiting. And if you were to click on that, you're going to see those 28 jobs and have an opportunity to release them to a press. And this entire screen can be filtered by press. So you can drill down on whatever device you're managing and move that workflow along. When you drill in to a particular link, you're going to see the details of those jobs and have all the tools you need to understand what you have to produce, when it's due, and you can select jobs and batch them up. Ganging is fully supported here, so you can mix jobs from different customers and even completely different workflows. So we have clients with more than one different front-end solution. They might be using the PressWise storefront, but they also have PageFlex, PixFizz, RedTie, and Procero, and others. And and what PressWise enabled them to do is to take all this volume and their custom in-house work, and it normalizes all of it, puts it all into this consistent queue, and enables you to do the most efficient possible production across those different workflows. And I can't stress enough how that really helps workers keep jobs flowing and gives them a holistic view across all those job flows of what's most important and which jobs are due next. So from this point, you can release jobs to press on a couple different criteria. We won't go into that in great detail right now. We'd encourage you to contact us for a demo to really learn about all the details on that. But it'll take into consideration, the due dates of the job, when they're supposed to ship, what the products are, to help workers get the right orders moving. So you go through this process called batching, and it involves selecting jobs that you want to print. A batch is really just it's a print run that's tracked in the system for quality control and cost tracking purposes. And that batch may be one job by itself, or it may be multiple jobs on the sheet, depending on your preferences for ganging. And the workers have barcodes, as you're going to see here on a job ticket, and this management control point that helps them communicate to everybody in the shop exactly where those jobs are. So we've learned, the best practices for managing, literally millions of jobs flowing, everything, real complex custom jobs in the same workflow at the same time as thousands of other small cookie cutter jobs are flowing. And it turns out that while these have to be managed differently in some ways, in other ways they have certain things in common that really need to happen so that everybody can see what's going on. And so the tools here to help you release jobs to press, understand where production runs are deeply built throughout the system. When a worker wants to go produce a job, they do this batching process, and then they get this window, and they can click on the imposition, and they're going to get the file they need without having to worry about how that was supposed to imposition. Your production managers, pre-press managers, they're controlling various job setups behind the scene that other workers downstream then benefit from. So a worker here, they don't necessarily get the raw file, the one-up PDF that was submitted for the job. When they click on that imposition button, they are going to get, whatever you have set for that product or that press, including dynamic imposition on the fly for custom jobs that you do not have to set up any impositioning for. So they just click on their jobs, they get their file. Jobs that are going to move forward into finishing and packaging. And here you have workers that are going to experience a task queue that is optimized for the processes that they're running. So each process can have its own queue, and whoever is running that process can see all the individual jobs coming their way, how long each one is supposed to take, and can record notes and things inside the system, and is just a click away from any additional info they might need. Now, the barcode sheet that you're seeing there in the upper right, that is an on-press job ticket. So in the prior screen, you saw the production artwork with those two brochure products on the sheet. And here is a job control sheet. This really is an on-press job ticket. So it's up to you for any job if you want to produce kind of the traditional 8.5/11 job ticket that everyone's familiar with from typical print workflows, or in this case, produce your digital work with purely on-the-fly job tickets that come out on press. So rather than a really busy form that has everything related to the overall order, what you have here is a mini ticket that has everything related to the production of that one element. The finishing notes and other critical criteria are all there, so when the workers in finishing get that job coming their way post-press and post-initial trimming, they can see right on that stack what they need to do. They have barcodes they can use to control the completion of finishing tasks, or just to use as a search tool to pull up a job in the system. And all this is, of course, going to be real time, as opposed to some of the old job ticketing that was much more manual or all hard copy printed out. It doesn't work really well if you have a lot of changes going on and you're trying to manage high volume at the same time. Shipping and fulfillment is, of course, also fully integrated, and that's where jobs go next after they are packaged up. You have the tools necessary to release things into a USPS mail stream with paperwork and tray tags created by the system, or ship it via various common carriers, or even manage local pickup and delivery. What the delivery workers and the customers and the shop floor folks are going to experience looks like this. So here we see on the left again 2 different versions of the job ticketing, depending on which one you want to use. And on the right, you're seeing what it looks like if you're managing multiple packages. And that's one of the things that works especially well in PressWise. So this is a simulation of 2 packages that someone has ordered. And the workers are going to have these real nice job tickets right on the package that has color-coded symbols, which are just like bin numbers, that can help any worker easily match up the right projects that go together. So this and many other details are really dialed in by experience in helping people avoid error and fulfill jobs correctly. And it's deeply integrated in the system. So a worker, they can't even ship that order without scanning both of those barcodes, or in another way, indicating that they do have all the parts of the job ready. The system is going to validate that they're all at the right stage, and the worker has them together, and then allow them to make a shipping label right inside the system. You can edit those job tickets, the job cards on Press, to meet the needs of different products and clients. And whichever one is called for by the product you're managing is going to automatically get used in the impositioning process. As I mentioned, with shipping, label generation is fully built in, with that shipping data flowing right back to the third parties. And again, mail processing as well. Running mail jobs through the system can be just as automated as other processes. There's no need to have a bottleneck in your shop where only one person has the skills or the tools necessary to prep mailing work. So we hope you'll come in and see a demo of that, because that will be particularly powerful, especially if you've got a good volume of mail lists that you run on a monthly basis. It's a very affordable add-on to the PressWise system. And if you're running mail manually, one job at a time, that feature alone will often give you a positive ROI on a PressWise system. So how's all this automation deployed? Business in the cloud is becoming common in just about every channel of business out there. We're seeing an explosion of tablets and smartphone use. Enterprise apps are being migrated to the cloud. I mentioned earlier an opportunity with things like ERP systems or the CRMs that your clients might be using. There's a huge opportunity in the future to tie in your customers to you electronically, especially the bigger clients that you may depend on for a substantial chunk of your revenue. You really want to tie those customers to you with our APIs. It drives a lot of overhead out of that channel, gives them faster turnaround, and really makes you an integral part of their business. The traditional approach to managing workflow, as we all saw in past decades, was really silo-based tools. You would go out and buy a tool, you'd task somebody with learning that, putting it in place, you'd probably add another box to your server closet, and you ended up with these separate tools and having to have your workers be the human glue between systems. We think that model really just doesn't work, and given what has become possible now with cloud workflow. One system is going to reduce your costs and complexity and enable you to move more quickly on opportunities. The traditional model also was big upfront payments, a lot of risk in committing to try a system. You had to have a lot more in-house talent for managing the hardware and software, potentially hire IT staff that was qualified to run servers, etc. With cloud model, you get to outsource some of that complexity and yet still use modern tools. We are, of course, using a very specialized approach. We have hosting experts that manage the servers themselves, while we concentrate on the workflow and you concentrate on running your business. That's going to lead to a faster ROI, lower ongoing IT costs, and a much better risk profile. Cloud-based workflow can help you manage all of these activities better, some of which used to be only offline things. But everything nowadays has some online component, not just web storefronts. Also estimating, sales reps just being able to see their business online when they're out of the office, accounting, proofing, all that stuff really benefits when the systems are in the cloud and integrated. PressWise can help you achieve more profitable printing through automation. We hope you'll take a good look at these tools and kind of some of the ideas that we've laid out. This is an end-to-end single platform that's going to help you address all those issues. Cloud hosted, no long-term contracts. You can get in without risk or long-term commitment. We retain your business on a month-to-month basis by serving your needs and releasing great software with the tools and features that you need. We're integrated and ready to go with all the partners you see down there and some others. Bracero, PixFizz, PTI, PageFlex, OPS, PageDNA, RedTie, Prism, Sapio, and others. With all of those folks, we have mutual clients that you can talk to about their experience. We encourage you to think about how business is going to continue to look 3 to 5 years out if all the trends going on in workflow continue. Things are going to keep getting faster. They're going to keep getting more integrated. And the time is now to get that foundation in place so that you can continue to automate and tie in more opportunities to your system electronically. There's zero tolerance for inefficiency now, and that's going to become even more true in the future. What new demands are your customers going to bring to you in the future? If you have been providing your own systems that you've created, do you want to keep maintaining those forever? Are you going to keep up? We think a better strategy is to go with a system like PressWise and let us be that specialized vendor for you. Connectivity is driving and will continue to drive a new breed of printing companies. Many of the folks, many of the best examples of this new breed are already Dscoop members today. So all these folks you may know from your Dscoop activities, and they're all using PressWise to drive productivity in their shop. We encourage you to talk to them, talk to us, and take a look at if PressWise is right for you. It really is a different kind of tool. If you haven't seen it yet or you haven't seen it in the last year, come check out all the new features and what happens when you put all this in one system. For more information, please check out our website, white papers, and also please feel free to pass in a few questions. Somebody's asking, when jobs are submitted, if there is no crops, no bleeds, how would the imposition work? And there is more than one answer to that, but I'll give you an answer from my own experience. Let me just take a simple example of a business card product. You can decide when you're producing something like a business card if you want to do separate production runs for the jobs that come in with bleed versus no bleed. Some people do have certain products on certain presses and sheet sizes where they're going to get more up on the sheet if they do a non-bleed run. So that kind of, the question kind of goes to, are you doing that intentionally because you have separate products you want to produce that way, in which case you can set up different flows, or do you want them just to run together, in which case PressWise is going to take whatever file it receives and it's going to center it properly in a production, in a zone on that sheet. If you're talking about managing, customer expectations, like they sent you a file that should have had bleed but didn't, then there are tools built in the system for pre-press to view and modify jobs. Potentially, pull the file down, tweak it, load it right back in, and the latest up-to-the-minute version of that file is going to get used live in production. If you do touch a file, it's a great idea to use the proofing cycle that's built in and push out a proof, which you can do regardless of where it came from. I mean, you could be talking about a page flex job that you need to then do some intervention on and fix and push out a revision cycle on that. Another question is, well, why would I need PressWise if I already have other web-to-print systems? To aggregate everything together. There's significant opportunities in efficiency in correctly prioritizing the right work when your workers can see all of the web work together in one system with the custom in-house work. Really improves communication across the different workers that are looking at what's going on and helps get everybody on the same page. Another question is, can you still choose to manually impose any particular job? And the answer is absolutely yes. Every job in the system has a feature built right in that you can indicate if that file is going to be imposed by PressWise or if the file you've loaded is a pre-imposed sheet, in which case when the worker goes to click on that imposition, they're going to be handed the ready-to-go imposition that you loaded in or that came in on your electronic job. And the third is if the job is complex enough that pre-press is just going to manage it, put the file on press, there's a special feature for that. You just tag the job with an option, and everybody throughout the shop, instead of seeing an artwork icon, they see a special icon that tells them, hey, art on press. Another question, how big do I need to be to benefit from automating my workflow? But that's an interesting question, and it's almost like the question I used to hear a couple years ago. How big do I need to be to have a website? And if you let that question sink for a moment, you'll realize the same trend is really true here. A few years ago, we still had printers who didn't think they needed a website. They were never going to be, some highfalutin digital online printer, to use a phrase I literally heard on a call. Well, the answer